everyone. This is the latest Progressive podcast, and I'm delighted today to be able to welcome Steve and Saswat. I first met Steve earlier this year at lunch in my hometown in Oxford, which he kindly came over to visit me at. And at the time, I thought, I really need to get Steve on our podcast. You'll find his infectious energy and enthusiasm for all things asset management is really great. And welcome, Steve. And I also have Saswat here today. Saswat works with me at Progressive. He's one of our subject matter experts from the EAM team. And I'm sure you'll be interested to hear his insight today as well. So kicking things off, Steve, would you like to introduce us to Mainstream?
Yeah, absolutely. Alison, thanks for having me. And hey, Saswat, great to see you. What is Mainstream? It's a complex thing to answer. I'll put it to you like this. Mainstream is a 30-year-old enduring, valued maintenance and reliability community of practice. It's also a maintenance conference. In fact, it's the largest gathering of maintenance managers and reliability leaders in the world. We get about 2,000 people to Melbourne, Perth, and Birmingham each year. But it's much more than that. It's a voice of industry, is the way I'd describe it as well. So it's a little amorphous. We see ourselves as a research business. That research becomes a blueprint for everything we do. We ask the audience, we ask heads of maintenance, reliability, and asset management what's troubling them. We turn that into research, and I know we're going to talk about the research paper today. And from that, we end up with a community of practice, with webinars, with a podcast series, with conferences, with training. We bring the community together and we solve problems. That's in a nutshell what Mainstream is. The beauty of it is it's vendor neutral, and it's a safe space for customers to have a voice. And that's it, really. I mean, I could say much more, but I'll probably leave it at that.
Thanks, Steve. And Saswat and myself were delighted to join the Mainstream community a couple of weeks ago in London at St Pancras Station, where you hosted an evening event, which was really great. And I think it's a very relaxed community. Yeah, as you say, safe space. I think we all really enjoy getting to know other people from the industry and sharing that passion for asset management. So thank you for inviting us to be part of all of that and joining us today. Going on to the report. So Mainstream have issued a fantastic report, The State of Maintenance and Reliability in the UK. Saswat, myself, and the rest of the team at Progressive have reviewed the report. We've all really enjoyed reading it, and it's really quite punchy at times in terms of the findings. I'm going to pick out three statistics that we all kind of honed in on in the report. First one, 58% of the UK organisations have already abandoned at least one AI maintenance project in the last 3 years. Less than 27% of data collected by UK asset-intensive organisations is used for decision-making. And the average schedule compliance is only about 68%, and that's versus best practice of 85%. Now, none of those statistics make happy reading. And I'd like to just really reflect on those. So in the report, 12 obstacles were highlighted by Mainstream, and we're to achieving maintenance and reliability excellence. And we've going to sort of drill down on three of those today, which we think are particularly pertinent to Progressive. First one we've highlighted is the obstacle of converting data into decisions that stick. Now, Steve, can you just tell us a bit more about that and your findings?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe just to give the report a little bit of context, there's a very significant process to capturing this information. We spent about 6 months. We interviewed nearly 400 heads of maintenance reliability from around the UK and Ireland. As I called us earlier, a voice of industry. We're not publishing reports for the sake of research. We publish it to drive action. Our research is very deliberate. They're think tanks, round tables. We then bounce all this data off what we call our mainstream leadership network, or the MLN, which is made up of global leaders in maintenance from customer land around the UK and Ireland, in fact, around the world. And once they've reality checked it, we then publish. So just want to give you that context that it's quite a serious endeavor. But on to your question about converting data into decisions that stick, which is, for me, one of the most fascinating parts of the research paper. I'd say there's 4 or 5 primary things I'd say about that. We're collecting more data than we ever have, but we're making no more decisions than we did 10 years ago. So I think that that's something that's material. Poor decisions begin with poor data. Obviously, what comes out of your system, and I'm sure Saswat's going to talk to that, it's pretty material what goes in. And then if people don't trust the data, they won't use it. So regardless of what you're pulling out of the data, you're probably going to have some kind of loss of interest or loss of trust in that data. The goal isn't more data, it's better decisions. And so all of that came out in the report. And some of those stats you spoke to earlier are very much, as you say, not good reading. But we can't start solving things until we understand the state that we're in, the present. But I would say those 4 phrases or thoughts that I've shared is the fundamental bedrock of that section of the report.
Yeah, no, I think it's really powerful and really important that people recognise this as an obstacle. Saswat, over to you. I mean, you've been working across asset-intensive industries for a long time. Have you seen evidence of this being an issue in practice?
Absolutely. I'll give an example where I worked at a 2 into 600 megawatt power plant, a 1200 megawatt power plant, quite big enough, and they heavily invested in asset data, right? So equipment hierarchies, getting the preventive maintenance, categorization, material list, and whatnot, right? So the data quality team, right? So they were really happy with the implementations. The data fell into the place in 6-7 months. They were proud of the work, but the major issue over there was the maintenance staff still kept using spreadsheets and alternate workarounds, right? So the EM had good data, but it wasn't used day to day, and it was not effective either by the maintenance or by the production team. So the biggest lesson during that implementation, what we found in a year's time, was that high quality data must be embedded in daily workflows for decisions to change. And what we didn't see as a practice was fundamentals, as you mentioned, Steve, right? So the technicians were not keying in the closing codes, or they were not having adequate information while closing a work order, which again cannot be turned into actionable insights, right? So that's very important to fix the fundamental first always.
Yeah. I think it's...
The report. So, pardon me, Alison. The report talks about that. If technicians don't consistently capture failure codes or work order details or asset condition, and that's because they're not seeing the outcome that capturing this leads to, they lose faith in the process. Well, then you're dead in the water. And I suppose that's the fundamentals, the discipline. And I think the big word here is discipline. That's required in an organization. I think you're spot on.
Yeah. Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it, to think, there's all that potential, and there is, sometimes the data's out there, it's just not being used effectively, and it's not being grasped, and that opportunity lost is really, really quite upsetting. Okay, moving on to one of the other obstacles that the reports brought out. That's about the erosion of work management fundamentals. Now, Steve, can you just talk to us a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The basics are quietly breaking down. I think that's the highlight here. But nobody's really talking about them. Everyone wants to talk about AI or digital twin. But the research finds that the fundamentals of work management, I'm talking about planning, scheduling, backlog management, work order discipline, are steadily eroding. And I think there are many reasons, much more broader socio reasons as well. as to why this is no longer front and center for us. You think 50 years ago how people were working on their cars and mechanically fixing things for fun every, on the weekends, perhaps with their father in the garden or whatever the case was. But those fundamentals, that desire to do that kind of work is steadily eroding. It's not glamorous, but it is, again, and I'll use the word discipline. It brings a discipline, and this determines whether maintenance teams are effective or whether they're going to permanently be reacting. And I think that's a big word. We've got a massive reactive maintenance culture in many organizations, and that's because of the breakdown of these fundamentals.
Yeah, yeah. So again, Saswat, has that been evidenced in the projects you've worked on?
Yeah, in the past, in another energy client I worked with, so I mean, they set up the preventive maintenance libraries, maintenance patterns correctly, but I think the major issue, like Steve mentioned, was the backlog and the scheduling and planning were not managed properly, right? So they had PMs, scheduling, and mobile tools. They had all the technology in place, right? But the organization lacked basic discipline, right? So they never used to do the planning and scheduling properly. Probably it would be the same person doing everything, or he might be the same person who is actually going and fixing the equipment issues, right? So as I always quote, right, system don't fix poor habits, people and processes do. So it's very important the culture of the organization should change, and that is how they can have an effective EM and or an ERP implementation. I mean, the buzzword is AI right now, but I think it's more important to fix the crux of the problem, right?
Yeah, I think you're right, Sashwa. And actually, that you just brought us on to the third obstacle that I wanted to highlight today, which is around navigating AI hype without losing focus on fundamentals. That's another obstacle that the reports brought out. Steve, what's your views on that?
Well, my views are what we heard when we went out and we interviewed these 380 odd people. And that's that the problem isn't AI, the problem's the hype around AI. So everywhere you go, you're talking to vendors who are selling AI. You go to conferences, you listen to people talking about what AI is going to bring you. Your board is saying, why aren't we doing AI? Yet the research has found that many practitioners still can't clearly distinguish between AI, machine learning, and advanced analytics, for example. So the confusion is leading to unrealistic expectations. It's leading to poor buying decisions. And as a result, growing skepticism. That's the one thing that I think is noteworthy. Another, and there are many noteworthy things, but again, back to the data and the discipline. AI is only as good as the data you feed it. And I think that's a highlight as well. What we found in our research is that the winners won't be the organizations who have the most AI. They'll be the ones with the strongest fundamentals. I think the most telling statistic in the report, and you alluded to it earlier, I think it was 58%, if my memory serves, of UK organizations have already tried and abandoned an AI-related maintenance project. So, is it because of AI? Probably not. It's probably because of the fundamentals, probably because of the data, it's probably because of the unrealistic expectations being created around AI.
Yeah.
That would be my view on the subject.
I think we're all probably sharing the same view here, Steve. Yeah, I mean, AI has a lot to offer. It's exciting. We're hearing about it all the time. We hear about it in our workplace, at home, our kids. Everyone's talking about AI. And it is an exciting opportunity, but yeah, it does seem to be a distraction as well at the moment from getting
we've just developed a maintenance. We have a whole bunch of training courses, and we've just developed a training course called AI for Maintenance School. And it really needs to focus on how do I get started? What's appropriate? What's the lowest hanging fruit for me to grab at? What needs to be in place as sort of the bedrock in my organization before I can even attempt this? Yeah. It's that level we need to operate at.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah. I think that's a really great approach. Don't run before you can walk. Yeah, I mean, we're a tech company. Our culture is innovation. We get very excited about new technology that's coming along, but we also need to be pragmatic about it. And I think that's, yeah. So just kind of rein it in a bit, guys. Yeah. And okay, so I think we're all in agreement here today about those obstacles and what, some of the reasons why things aren't going quite as well as we'd like to. So now let's move on to kind of looking about how progressive can help. Where do we fit in with this? So Saswat, back to you. How can we address some of these obstacles?
Sure. So progressive approach is grounded in a simple principle, right? Making complex asset management ecosystems work in a practical and a scalable way, right? First, we set our EM foundations right, set it solid, have the right equipment hierarchies, get the preventive maintenance, get the failure codes in place. And next, we have our proprietary integration middleware, which is Proint, which is a system agnostic, and we have integrated with multiple ERPs, EM, finance system, SCADAs, and historians, right? And then we have our proprietary analytics tool, which is Pro BI, that turns integrated data into clear and actionable dashboards. In short, you need to get the basics right. We help connect the systems, make the data visible, and then scale it with the help of analytics and the buzzword AI. So we at Progressive make sure each layer brings values to the organization and build towards better decisions and outcomes.
Great. Yeah, and we're very keen to do that and talk to you, everyone, about that. I'm going to just wrap up there today. I think we've had a good discussion. It's something we'd like to continue, I'm sure. So yeah, I think some key takeaways: get the foundations right. Sometimes maybe look back on the legacy systems you've got and look at re-optimizing those. They might have been good at one point, but they've kind of lost their way. Technology is the enabler, but it's not the hero, and we need to recognize that and recognize that people and culture are at the heart of success of any technology project. And we're saying that as a technology company, but Progressive will very much recognize that success of a project is about working with the teams, with the people, making sure that technology is accepted and people understand the value to them and to the wider organisation. We'll be adding a link to the mainstream report at the end of this recording, so you can read more on that. And Steve, can you just mention the dates of the mainstream summit that's in the UK in October?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. Mainstream's in Birmingham. It's the 20th to the 21st of October. We will have over 500 people there. People can go check it out at mainstreamcommunity.com, where they can learn a little bit more. I think we've got 2 more weeks for the lowest price point, which is called the 2-for-1, and then we go to the next price point. So now's your moment.
And Progressive will have a booth there, so please do call by the Progressive booth. And hope you've enjoyed today's podcast, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.